There was a little girl called Dia who was brought by her parents to Enliven Therapy Center few months back. When she entered, she had a smile on her face, but there were few things missing. When I called her name, she didn't look at me. But the moment I sang a rhyme, she looked at me as though she was seeing a screen through me. She looked at one of the shapes there and she said, "It's a crescent shape," using that foreign like cartoon accent. But she didn't know how to say mom or dad, or she couldn't convey her daily needs. This is how virtual autism looks like. Welcome to Beyond Words with Indu. In this episode, I will be talking about virtual autism and the recovery story of Dia. What is virtual autism? Virtual autism refers to autism-like symptoms that we see in young kids due to excessive screen exposure and due to less real-life human interactions. And this is not due to any neurological conditions or brain-related issues. What are the symptoms of virtual autism? There is a delayed or absent speech. There is a lack of eye contact. They prefer rhymes and rote memory over real-life situations. Then there is repetitive behaviors like rocking or flapping, or they keep repeating the video lines. Then there's a poor emotional bond. Then they're lost in their own world and they are hyper-focused on screens, shapes, alphabets, numbers rather than the real world. Why do these symptoms develop? Because the first 3 years of life is very crucial for the brain development. When we sing, when we play with the child, or when you talk to them, there is a neurological connections which happens. The more you do that, the neurological connections become stronger. The child doesn't know to differentiate the real world versus the screen world, and that is why you see these symptoms. Now, let's talk about regression. What is regression? Regression is a lack of already acquired skill. For example, parents say that my child was already speaking, but now they are not talking. Or they were maintaining eye contact, they had a social smile, but they stopped all that. That is called regression. Why this regression happens? Now, consider this brain as a road system. Now, the neural pathway is a road. Whenever we talk to the child, when we play with the child, or when we have the social skills with the child, the pathway, that is a road which becomes stronger. But when you don't talk, when there is a screen which is replaced, the road becomes weaker. That means the neurological pathway becomes weaker, and over a period of time, there is a neural pruning which happens, which means the whole neural pathway gets lost. Now, how much of exposure triggers virtual autism? Kids who are below 18 months of age are at higher risk if at all they have an exposure of 1 to 2 hours a day. Now, you may ask me, will all kids with the increased screen exposure develop virtual autism? Not really. There are some kids who are neurologically sensitive, but at this point, we will not know who are those kids. So, it is better to avoid the screen. How to differentiate virtual autism versus classic autism? Virtual autism means the symptoms develop rapidly, that is rapid onset. Then, it is usually reversible. And then there's a progress seen the moment we start the interventions and remove the screen. But in the real or the classic autism, the symptoms would have been there even before the screen exposure. Then it is mostly irreversible because it is to do with the brain. And then the progress might be much slower compared to the virtual autism. Now, let's go back to Dia's recovery story. We started with the intervention for Dia. We removed the screen completely and the parents were involved actively and the sessions were given almost every day. We had enrolled her for speech therapy, occupational therapy and social group therapy sessions. In just 4 months of time, we saw a huge difference in Dia. And when I saw her, she smiled at me and this time it was a real human connection. She started saying a lot of words which are meaningful and which had a lot of functional communication. We could confidently discharge her in just few months. Her play skills, her communication, social skills, overall there was a huge change in her. Now, what can parents do, if at all, that you see such symptoms in your kid? First thing is stop the screen exposure and replace with play, talk, reading and real life situations. And use your natural voice. And most importantly, start with the intervention. You may contact a developmental pediatrician, a speech therapist, or an occupational therapist and start with the intervention right away. Remember that virtual autism is not a life sentence. It is a brain's way of saying that the brain needs more of human connection and not the screens. The earlier that we respond, the faster we can help the child reconnect with the world, just like Dia did. Let's together raise gadget-free, emotionally strong kids. Stay tuned.